Hey everybody, Drew here. Welcome back to the Build Series video saga. Today's step 3, and we're going to go over exactly what we need to accomplish this part of the build. So you're definitely going to be needing a small file, your sandpapers and little sand blocks if you've got them handy. You're going to need them. You're going to need your glasses, you're going to need your gloves, you're going to need those little squares that I was telling you about, and you're going to need your adhesives, CA glue, catalyst accelerator, which I have in the back, and then your 2-part epoxy, mixed cup, and a stir stick. So those are the items that you're going to be needing this morning. So the first part of the step is basically putting this frame together, and what I like to do is I like to dry fit it. Some people don't. Some people like just wildly sand and then just glue along the way, but I don't like to do that, and I'll explain to you why. I'll zoom into this right here so you guys can actually see this up close. So these are notched joints, and I like to use the file, if you will, to just get in there and open them up a little bit so that it's not overtly super tight, because if it's overtly super tight and you're going to press these pieces in, it could crack, and you don't want that. So normally stress crack right here, and so you don't want that. So you definitely want to do this. You want to file it so that it goes in still snug, but not loose. Okay, if that makes any sense. Snug, but not loose, easy to press in, easy to pull back out. And so you've got a number of those to do. And this is all along the bottom of the hull. And so you see how that slid in there? That's basically what you're going to be doing. You're going to be sliding each one into place, a dry fit, and you want to make sure that these sit flat. That's real important. I'll explain why in a second. When you get to the back end of the boat, this piece is going to fit just like that. Okay, it's going to be flat so that when you put your panel on, that edge is not cocked out or anything, because then you're going to have issues with gaps. So make sure that that sits flat when you actually glue it, and I'll be doing that in a second. And so as far as gluing is concerned, I actually like to start from the back of the boat and work my way forward. And then I start on the same process on the other side of the boat, from the back to the front. Then once I've got that done, I come back and I glue all of the stuff in the middle, and I use this little square at all times to make sure that every corner is square, because if it's not, you want to make sure that it is. It's really important to make sure that everything's squared up, because if the boat hull is tweaked, it's never going to run right in the water, and you have wasted your money and all the time that you put into building the boat, and you don't want to do that. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue some pieces together, and then we'll be back and I'll show you the next step, which will actually be the epoxying of all of the joints. So more to come. Stay tuned. Step 3 includes gluing together of the transom, the keel, the flex shaft tube support, and the motor mounts. So once we have all of that done, then we can get to putting our chines on and getting on with fitting everything up. So stay tuned. Alright, so I'm back and I've got all of the joints glued on the boat. So this is what it's going to look like. Pretty much like the dry fit, but will be glued. So the next step is basically doing the epoxying of the joints. And so when you're doing your CA gluing, you only need a couple of drops, and then spray that catalyst in there. Make sure you're pressing everything tight to hold it in place. And if you're not sure, definitely brush in or drop a little bit more in. But just keep in mind, you're not gluing this together. You're just kind of like tacking it together, because we want to allow the epoxy to be the adhesive on the joints. So I know some of you probably saw that drill on the table a minute ago. So this is one of the steps that I needed to talk to you guys about. So with the dowels that we use for our handrails, if you will, you have to basically sand these edges down and bring them to a slight bit of a taper on each end. And the simplest way that I found to be able to do this is basically shove that puppy right into the end of your drill, lock it down, get you a coarse sanding pad, hold it in your hand, and let it rip. Don't be afraid, it's not going to burn you. And you just want to basically get it sanded to a point where it's going to accept the penetration hole inside of the bulkhead. Once you're able to get it through there, you want to make sure you can get it through at least 1/4 of an inch, because you've got a little, I don't know what you want to call it. Basically, it's a bracket, if you will, so a strengthening bracket. And so we're going to take that right out of the drill, and then we're going to walk over here. And so those are the strengthening or reinforcement brackets, is what I really should have called them. And so what we do is we're going to just kind of shove one end into the boat. Get it far enough in there that I can get the other one in the back. There we go. And so that's it. And so it's going to sit like that. And then we're going to put our little reinforcement pieces on there. And you guys can see why we're doing that. Just adds a little bit of extra support for those handrails. And so ultimately, we're going to go ahead and glue those in place, and also do some epoxying on those as well. So it basically looks like that on each end, right? Fortunately, this piece fell off on me. It's a little windy here today, folks, and I've got that back door open and a fan on as well, so things might be flying off slightly. So that's basically it. What we're going to do is just tack that in with a little CA glue, and then we're going to come back, and again, every joint, we're going to just brush in the two-part epoxy. And once every joint is done, then you're just going to let that sit for 24 hours. You want it to completely cure before moving on to the next step, because the next step is going to involve putting the side panels on, and you're going to need to have that strengthened to basically be able to clamp everything down. So, more to come on the Zippkits VBOX build by NOLA RC Powerboats. And we're back, and what I've done off camera is I've mixed up some of this Bob Smith two-part epoxy mix. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be spreading that around inside of the shell like this, in between all of the ribs. And so you don't want to kind of really just gunk it in there. Just a nice, smooth, even application. And so the reason why we do this is because this is actually what we're going to do to basically get this to be nice and solid and rigid. And then we're going to come back and we're going to redo the whole thing. So that's why you don't want to get a bunch on now. Don't junk it up. Just feed it into those corners, because basically it's going to just cure overnight and hold everything nice and tight. So every last corner, every last seam, you're going to use your epoxy in the brush, just like I showed you, nice and neat. And then we'll move on to the next step. So more to come on the Zippkits 46-inch VBOX Rougarou #2 build.